Now, the New South Wales Premier is Gladys Berejiklian. We sat down and had a very long conversation. I'll make sure a raw version of it we release somewhere. But part of our conversation was about how important the economic recovery is, particularly in New South Wales, as we start to transition from the issues about the virus, and now we're into the full transition about making sure people can get back to work. Here's part of what she told me from her office.
Back in April, we lost 221,000 jobs from the end of March to beginning of May. So that is a horrific number of jobs to lose in a very short period. And we appreciate how important it's been for us to invest in health and get the virus in control. And I'm so proud of what the community has helped us achieve. We've gone from more than 200 cases a day to more often than not having 0 cases of community transmission, and touch wood, that'll continue. But there's no doubt the economic shock is of a huge magnitude, unforeseen, unprecedented, and we have to deal with it.
I also wanted to ask her, of all of the things that have happened, and sure, there's Ruby Princess, but does she have any regrets, particularly how long it took to get back to school, how long it took for some of these restrictions to start to come off? Look, I wasn't having a go, but what are her regrets about how she handled it?
Been far from perfect, and there'll be more missteps along the way, but generally speaking, I'm pleased. I don't have any regrets about when we did things. I remember I got criticised when we shut down to say, oh, why are you shutting down? I remember getting criticised when I said, let's bring back schools in a staged way so we can make the environment COVID safe. I don't apologise for any of those things, and I certainly don't apologise for supporting businesses and easing restrictions and keeping our borders open during this entire time.
So to the substantive conversation, which was about schools. And I wanted to make sure that we gave her the long time to answer, which is about education, because every year that she's been Premier or a Minister, there's been increased record funding for education. Every year there's been desperate wants to get us to a new place. But the truth is that reviews about education are showing that more money is equaling less results. In fact, just yesterday there was horrific numbers that came out about education, that we have gone backwards in terms of the number of people making it to year 12, backwards in terms of the number of kids who are going to school for 90% of any one year, backwards in terms of literacy and numeracy. And here's what she says to that, and a sign of hope that she wants to change the system for the better.
I was quite shocked to learn a year or two ago that the curriculum in New South Wales hadn't been reviewed since you and I did our HSC, which is getting on. So it hadn't been reviewed for more than 3 decades. So we've actually undertaken that review, and the government will soon be announcing our response. But I can tell you the 3 principles we'll be abiding by. Less clutter. We need our kids to be able to read, write, add up. Literacy and numeracy has to be the dominant part of our curriculum, no matter what age students are, especially in the younger years. There's too much clutter in the curriculum. So getting back to basics, decluttering the curriculum, but also having better opportunities for students to develop skills and get qualifications in year 11 and 12, so that whether they go to uni or whether they go to TAFE or whether they want to get a job, they've got that pre-qualification. They're the 3 principles which the curriculum review will be addressing, and I'll have more to say about that in the very near future, Paul. But I agree with you completely. I'm passionate about education. I went through the public system. I'm passionate about, if we're serious about a COVID recovery which lends itself on skills and developing advanced manufacturing, using STEM, science, technology, engineering and mathematics as the basis of our future job creation in New South Wales, we must do better in education. I'm passionate about this. And you won't have to wait too much longer before you hear us announce major changes to the way we teach the curriculum in New South Wales.
Well, I think the thing that people don't understand is that there seems to be no accountability in the system. Why can't we have a system where the overall academic results are something that determines whether a principal gets to stick around running that school? At what point do we start to have a conversation about who gets to run the education department? Because, again, yes, it's been a long time since there's been a change in the curriculum, but literally as late as last week, just teachers were deciding that Greta Thunberg needed to be studied. Well, OK, I get it. There's always a need to add new things to the curriculum. But, it feels like no one is in central control and no one is in central accountability. As a person who has been able to succeed in life through accountability, through hard work, how do we change the system that means people's jobs are on the line if the standards keep falling.
Well, Paul, some of the reforms you just mentioned are integral to this process, and we do want there to be a merit-based system, but teachers and parents are on the same page as this, right? Teachers and principals are craving greater direction in curriculum and less discretion, and that's what the curriculum review will do. It will actually make sure, because teachers themselves get very frustrated when they have to keep teaching bits that keep getting added to the curriculum. We'll be taking a much more black and white view of the basics that all students, especially in the younger years, need to be learning, and literacy and numeracy will stay the focus of the curriculum all throughout someone's education life. And parents deserve to know how their school's going compared to other schools, and that's why we have a great program which has been introduced only this year in New South Wales called Bump It Up. So previously it was a pilot program where we identified schools in particular areas which weren't doing as well as the schools around them. So we appreciate there are socio-demographic challenges around the state, schools, smaller schools, larger schools, regional, city, particular suburbs that have greater social challenges. But when a school is not doing as well as its neighbours, there's got to be a reason there. So we honed in on those schools and through individualised care managed to identify what the challenges were and really boost performance. Now we've converted that pilot scheme to business as usual across the state. So all schools now have that individualised process where each child's literacy and numeracy results are looked at, and specific issues, whether it's issues regarding classes, issues regarding students or principals, are identified and addressed.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just this thing where, normal people are people far smarter than I as well. They turn around and they see that the bloke who used to run the ABC, who's now running the Department of Education, fine, okay, chief bureaucrat, right? But he spent $100,000 on a cultural health check for the Department of Education. Now, again, what's he running? Is he running the bureaucracy or is he running the education system? Because the education system is in dire need of exactly what we're talking about here. So, I hope that more performance-based contracts, I hope that you're going to be able to do this, because, it seems so bizarre that we're able to drill a hole and build a train line, but we can't get better results out of our schools.
And look, Paul, the only frustrating thing which I will express is, and can I say the Minister and her Secretary are doing an outstanding job, but the frustrating thing is we're not going to see results overnight. However, we are going to make the changes which will be implemented in the very near future. But the results, we want to see results progressively, but we're not going to see us climbing the global calendar or the global ladder in the next year or 2 years. However, we've already seen the positive impact that changing policy can have to literacy and numeracy, and we need to make sure we have the focus where it needs to be, because, as you said, there's a lot at stake. If we want our students, our children, to have the best chance at getting a job, keeping a job, but also leading Australia in developing those industries locally, and we know in the future somebody managing an advanced manufacturing plant may not necessarily be just an engineer. They're likely to be a tradie who has engineering skills and vice versa. So you'll see the merging of TAFE and universities as well, and we're already having those conversations. So this stuff is so important to get right. And even though the challenges are huge, I'm personally feeling very excited about what that means.
All right. Finally, about statues. If a statue in New South Wales is pulled down by a protester, will the New South Wales government replace it?
Obviously, we don't want it to come to that, Paul, but of course. But can I say we have very tough penalties for people breaking the law in that regard, imprisonment of up to 5 years. As I said in the last few days, it's very un-Australian to do that. If people feel passionately about something, gosh, you're a passionate person, but you express your views in a respectable way within the democracy, and that's what we ask everybody to do. I implore anybody considering breaking the law in any which way, don't do it, because the consequences will be huge for you personally, but also we can't assume that our democracy will always be strong. It's a work in progress. We always have to uphold what is dear to us, those values that are dear to us, because unless you do, there are unfortunately a small minority that seek to erode those values which all of us hold so dearly.